broadcasting, so this is being recorded for YouTube. We may take them down after a while, but if there are people who couldn't join us, we're going to leave those up so people can participate that way. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? Our time is valuable, and you're here on time. I mentioned I'm from the University of Denver, but my role here is as student outreach librarian and the coordinator of the Research Center, which is our reference service point. I also chair the Public Relations Committee, and that committee coordinates our communications through social media. Thinking about what we do right now, we have Facebook, both for the Academic Commons, which includes the library and other partners from different units, like the Math Center is run by the Math Department, the Writing Center. So we brought those all under the Academic Commons Facebook umbrella rather than just the library. We communicate through the university's Facebook. We have Twitter accounts, Flickr account, YouTube. We do 3 WordPress blogs that feed into our library's homepage. We have Foursquare, and we are tagging in our online catalog. So those are some of. Hi, welcome, Eric.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We're just getting started. I'm Erin Meyer from the University of Denver, and I was just reviewing some of the social media outlets that we use at my institution. We're a private university here in Denver with about 11,000 students, and our PR committee communicates primarily through Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, YouTube, and 3 WordPress blogs, but we also use Foursquare, and we have tagging enabled in our discovery layer in our catalog, which is underutilized, but it is there. But anyone else like to jump in and introduce yourself and some of the social media tools that you're using?
Sure, I can go next if you want.
Sure.
I'm Jenny Colvin at Furman University down in South Carolina. So we're a liberal arts school, mostly undergraduate, mostly residential. And we use Facebook quite a bit, and we have some Twitter and YouTube and Pinterest. And instead of having a library Instagram account, although we now have one, we were trying for a while to just encourage people to use a hashtag, LoveMyFUL, and I have a site, actually, I'll post it in the chat, that pull things in just automatically that are tagged that way. It was a good idea, we thought, but it didn't get a lot of use other than people who work in the library, I think. One of the things I have on my list to investigate using, the creators of Yik Yak, which you might have heard of, actually come from Furman. And so I know that a lot of our student government types, like the students, they actually use Yik Yak a lot to do last-minute promotion of things. And so we've thought about getting on that bandwagon, but we're not really sure that's someplace we really want to be or not. So those are probably where we're active the most right now.
I can go next. I'm Jenny Neeson. I'm the head librarian at Penn State Wilkes-Barre, and we're one of the Commonwealth campuses that's part of the Penn State system. And so even though we have access to all the amazing Penn State resources, our campus is very small. We're about 600 students right now, and primarily our concentrations are STEM, engineering, information technology, things like that, and a lot of two-year students who then go on to Penn State or one of the larger campuses to finish out their degrees. So, and I've only been here 6 weeks, and and my background is more. I came from University of Maryland, where I was much more sort of on the IT back end, doing digital collections and things like that. So when I got here, we have an excellent Facebook account that our support staff member has been running beautifully. We just set up a Twitter account and an Instagram account. Not really sure how we're going to use them. We just created them. And that is kind of it. We've already actually set up. We're using things like blogs. We've set up some things to help other people on campus do promotion, and just using them. Just as an example, we're co-hosting an undergraduate research day, and we created the WordPress blog and did all the coordination for that. So it's not really social media, but I guess that's a tool. And just in terms of playing around with technology in general. I mean, one example, the campus is having its 100th anniversary next year, so we're kind of trying to take the lead in terms of helping to promote that. And we just were playing this afternoon with StoryCorps has a new app that they just put out that we were playing around with the idea of having an alumni. Instead of getting our own StoryCorps booth, we can just use an iPad and record things. So that's basically it. I'm interested. I only just heard about Yik Yak, I guess about 3 weeks ago, and I have to confess I put it on my phone. And I live. We don't have a lot of traffic here on campus, but I live about a mile from University of Scranton, which is a larger campus, and I had to take it off my phone after like 2 days because I couldn't stop looking at it, and it made me feel kind of dirty.
That's what I hear a lot.
Yeah, and I've also heard, and then I'll shut up, that I've heard from faculty on this campus that our chancellor actually monitors Yik Yak, because the students are always posting stuff like, I mean, this is exaggerating, but, like, I don't know, party in the parking lot type of things. And then he monitors it and then goes after people. I guess I shouldn't say that since we're going to be on YouTube. But I guess my point being that I don't know, like, I just have this weird feeling that if we start jumping on Yik Yak, I feel like everybody's going to run away.
That's my concern, too.
Yeah, so anyway.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Eric Belmar. I'm with the CMU Libraries here in lovely Mount Pleasant, Michigan. We are both on-campus and off-campus library, so we service all roughly 27,000 students, both here and abroad. I am relatively new. To the libraries. I've been on campus now for 18 years. I spent 15 years in the IT department before I came over to the libraries a couple of years ago. So I'm the manager of web services. I also coordinate all of our social media. So we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and Foursquare. We don't do a whole lot with Foursquare because it's mostly user-driven, and there's not a lot for us to do except see what's going on, and people are checking in. So we've kind of shied away from that one of late. But we've been very active on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. We have channel managers for each one of them, and then they have their own channel plan that kind of I coordinate amongst all of them. And so we try to meet every month to discuss what's going on, what trends we're seeing, what we're going to plan out for the next month or so. I'm working on the calendar right now for April. We've done a number of different things with it, and so within the CMU libraries, we have actually 3 different entities. You have the main campus library, which services everyone here on campus, obviously. You have Global Campus Library Services, which is worldwide, services all of our thousands of online learners. And then we have the Clark Historical Library within the building as well. And they have their own social media presence as well, but they work together with us. But their focus is specific to the Clark historical stuff. And so we trade ideas back and forth a lot. And right now we're actually running a promotion via all of our social media for, we call it the CMISH book face, to get people to show us their book face. And it's finally taking off now. This is the last week of it. It actually closes tomorrow. And the whole goal is just to get more interaction with people on social media and to get them, we set up a selfie station here in the building too with an iPad, so they could actually take their own book face selfie, and we had a stack of books and example pictures of how other people have done it. And so the contest ends tomorrow. We're going to get together as a group, the social media coordinators, and then pick our top 3 that we like and put them up for vote next week. And then we wanted a tie-in. So we've got movie tickets, and we've got campus cash that they can spend in any of the residential restaurants for the top 3 places. And we kind of stole this idea actually from the folks in the Clark Historical Library, who did a contest back a month and a half ago for a grant fund where they're doing the digital newspaper initiative, and they had the opportunity through a grant to focus on one area newspaper, and so they put it up for vote on Twitter, and so everybody got their own hashtags, and they narrowed it down to the top 5, and then they had a bunch of voting going on for that. And then the Milford, which is a town about an hour and a half south of here, their hashtag won, so they're getting their newspapers digitized through our Clark Historical Library, but it brought in thousands of tweets from all over the place, which was really cool. So we kind of pilfered that idea from them.
Right. So you've already spoken to one of the issues that I was going to bring up, which is about management, and if you have a management plan or process or team involved. So maybe Jenny, you can talk about your institutions, and obviously we have different sizes of staff and student bodies to deal with, so that will influence how many staff can be devoted to social media or have that as part of their job.
Well, we have a web advisory group, and that's 6 people from the various areas of the library, and it doesn't necessarily, we haven't yet created standards for social media, but we have a list. That's more than we used to have. It's kind of been just it's just kind of come from the ground up. People have come up with things they wanted to do with certain things. It hasn't been mandated. It's more just, I guess, voluntary. And when we see success, like if one person does Facebook and that's really successful, then it makes sense for other people to do it. But there really isn't anyone providing oversight or anything. I mean, we have 13 librarians total, so it's just part of...
Sorry, do you have any guidelines or anything from your institution? Because we actually do have social media, I want to say directors, but outline guidelines from our University Communications Department.
Yeah, they haven't. They actually have talked to us about our social media. They wanted to know what was there, but the VP for marketing is more involved in like the website redesign and those kinds of guidelines, but they haven't yet mandated anything. They just like to know what we have so that their presence is following our presence and we can all connect together. They often repost things that we've done or link to us, so they've been supportive but not restrictive, I guess.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, here on our campus, there are only 3 of us in the library who work here, and only 2 of us who use social media. So the 2 of us who do pretty much do it all. And the main campus has, Penn State itself has a what they call their social media hub that's, for the whole campus that is run out of, I think, the communications and marketing department, and they have guidelines and recommendations and things like that. And the libraries themselves also have a kind of library social media hub where all of the branches and everybody can, it's basically like a feed. So everything feeds through that main page. I guess, though, you know, the one thing that I found kind of hard to figure out when I got here was how to get onto those lists and pages and feeds and things like that. And I couldn't really get a sense about whether or not, what they didn't have were guidelines about, like, you know, are you allowed to set up a Google account to link all your social media together, or it's, you know, should we be using a generic email account or a personal email? You know, like those kinds of like nitty-gritty questions were very hard to find answers to. And actually there are no policies on that, so that was why. But
Thanks. Sorry, other Jenny, I didn't switch the camera. That's my task to do. So we have, like I said, we have a public relations committee, and we have fairly well divvied up the different social media channels and other channels among members of the committee, so that when we have something to get out, we post it to our PR committee listserv, and then the appropriate people say, I've got that. I'll put it on Facebook. I've already put it on Twitter. I've put it on Flickr. We've forwarded it on to the marketing and communications to put up on their Facebook page or repost. They love that. Who doesn't love, you know, content that's already created and they just have to repost it? So that's been very successful. What I honestly don't think has been as successful is really attracting students. That, you know, if it goes, our Facebook page serves us to think about what we want to say and how we want to say it concisely enough that it might get reposted elsewhere, but whether or not students are actually coming to our page to find that information. Some faculty do, library staff and staff across campus do, but I don't think that it's very attractive to students yet. So personally, I'm interested in other giveaways or rewards that you have, you know, found successful on Facebook in particular. So we talked about a little bit about the rules and regulations. Yeah, we've had over my 7 years here, we've had an up and down relationship with marketing and communications in terms of, are we collaborating or are they policing? And generally speaking, the new people come in, they've had a lot of turnover, and they come in and they get worried that we're doing all of these things, and then we show them how we are appropriately branding, and it's all very, you know, professional and useful for campus. Then we get the okay. And now that we have, we started inviting a marketing communications member to our PR committee meetings. That really helped. They came monthly, and now we don't have to do that as often, only if we have some large campaign that we want to make sure that they're fully aware of. So, do others of you feel that your social media, you mentioned already the issue of, if we show up, and I assume you mean if the library is a presence on this particular social media platform, it no longer is as attractive to students. It's
or people who aren't students in general.
Yeah. So we found, and we kind of lurk on Tumblr, that there's a confessions page for our campus. If anyone has a confession.
We have one too.
Oh, I have to go
so we
look.
kind of monitor that for issues that may or may not really be happening in the library.
Yeah.
We're open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, so there could be a lot going on here. And we also try to jump in, and actually the PR committee member who manages Twitter is really good about noticing complaints or concerns on the Twitter sphere and responding to them quickly. Similarly, if we catch something on Facebook, we're going to jump in and say, "Hi, I'm a librarian. Let me help you with that problem," or let you know we heard your complaint or your concern, and here's what we're going to do to address it. So.
Yeah, we've been doing that too.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things we found is, I mean, it's one thing for a staff member or a librarian to create an account in social media and then try to promote it, but one of our student workers at the Research Assistance Desk created an Instagram account. Our library is called the James B. Duke Library, and instead of calling it the library, it's him. And like overnight, she had more followers than our Facebook page ever has. It's just something about the student-driven, because she went out and invited all her friends. And let her friends know, and that was a much faster way of spreading the word than us doing it. And so I'm kind of wondering how we can apply that kind of concept to some of our other social media presences. I think it might be more effective, because getting the students actually there is the hard part, and that's the whole reason we're in social media to start with, I think. So try to get to them.
And we've been doing something similar. We're using our students as much as we can in that realm. We've noticed they brought up to us that there's a hashtag Club Lib that is used a ton with when students are going to go to the library to hang out. I'm hanging at Club Lib tonight. I'll be there from 9 to 12 or whatever. So we're actually going to flip that around. We're going to use that in our April promotion. We're going to do all kinds of stuff. We're actually doing some de-stress zones here in the library prior to finals. So we're going to advertise that with the hashtag, come hang with your peeps, and we're going to give away some little peeps candies, that kind of thing out in our corridor. We're going to bring somebody in to do yoga one night in one of our rooms, so we're going to advertise it, but just to get the traction that's already there, why introduce new hashtags if we don't have to? They're already using that one.
Right.
Great.
Do you guys follow a lot of hashtags or anything similar?
I'm remiss in that area. Again,
Okay.
Joe, who's our PR committee member who does Twitter, he does, but
Okay.
not me personally. How about you guys?
We use TweetDeck and monitor quite a few different ones, actually.
Okay.
It's a good idea. I
it's
don't,
a
but
good
I should.
idea.
All right. Do any of you pay for advertising on Facebook to bump up your posts?
Not yet, but we've been talking about it of late.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just sat in on a little mini conference the other day, a presentation from a guy from a company here in Michigan, and I got some interesting stats from that. He was saying that only about 2% of your followers actually see your text posts, and that if you're not including imagery, you're not getting anybody. And one of the ways that you can do that more effectively was not to use clickbait, but something similar to use engaging headlines and better pictures, but using Facebook events and what was the tool he mentioned? Power Editor through Facebook allows you to actually do that kind of thing and put out ads in Facebook. He said because that's where Facebook is really driving traffic anymore, is towards ads. But it's a free tool, the Power Editor, to create your own ads without having to pay for them. And you can of course pay to increase your vision, but it's one of those things. It's a direction that Facebook's going.
I did not know about that. That sounds great. Facebook events, I had heard that that's a better, and we always include an image or video with our posts because otherwise they just don't get seen.
Is anybody played with Twitonomy?
Oh, what's that?
It is a free tool. Of course, it has levels you can pay for, but it will tie right into your Twitter account, and it will show you the reach of everything. I'm going to actually log into mine right now so you can see all kinds of stuff, and it kind of spiders out to show you the reach of a post and then who retweeted and where it went from there. And let me bring that up.
You should be able to screen share with a green button on the left.
If I could get the password right. All right, so all right, are you seeing that?
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just logged in with the CMU Libraries account, and it gives you quite a bit of data here. Like I said, this is just the free version, but I can take a look at our followers. I can see what's getting retweeted. It's TweetDeck is nice, but this actually gives you more visual representation that I can actually take to some of our committees and show.
That begs the question of assessment of all platforms. Do you feel, again, our feeling is, and from what we have been able to see, especially with Facebook and Twitter, Joe's been monitoring our Twitter. I don't know if he uses this tool, Twitonomy, but he does check and see what our reach is. Again, we feel like librarians are communicating with librarians almost more than we're communicating directly to students, to be honest with you. And I would like for the PR committee to focus in the next 6 months or so on going through each of our tools and seeing what is our reach and how much time. It could just be worth it because once or twice a year we have a big enough event that gets reposted, so
Yeah.
we're getting the word out and it doesn't take that much time. but some of our efforts, like our blog posts, we don't know if they're really worth the effort that we're putting into them. So what do you have a system in place, or are there tools that you've been able to assess other than Twitter, perhaps?
Well, we don't do a lot of assessing other than just counting how many posts and how many followers we have. At the same time, I think our basic strategy is to duplicate efforts as much as possible in hopes that someone will notice it somewhere. So, for instance, we have a newsletter that I know the students don't read. It's 13 to 14 pages long. But we can repurpose the articles in the newsletter to put into the blog, and then from the blog, you can post it to Facebook. I mean, so I just feel like you can promote the work you've already done once and repurpose it, and that seems to be an effective strategy. Even down to, I hang up posters on the study rooms sometimes. Because we have such an in-person population here that social media is fine, but they're in the actual space too, so using that is important too.
Mm-hmm. We're starting to ask, we have a new survey, we designed it for events related to our exhibits program, but we're going to take it out to all events, outreach, and other, even any drop-in workshops, etc., to see how did you hear about this, because we write the content and then we just send it out through all of our channels, but which ones are the most useful. So it's we have a paper version, and I'd like to have an iPad version, but then you would have to have 30 people lining up for your 5 iPads, so it's probably going to be paper and then have a student input the data.
Yeah.
It's kind of a step other than some tools like we've seen to track follows and etc. Jenny, how about you?
We have so little. Right now, all I'm doing is looking and seeing if anybody else will like our Facebook page.
Right.
That's about all. I mean, I would love to be able to figure out what is the most effective way to get things out there. But yeah, I mean, our population is so small. I would just be happy if the people who are on like our campus Facebook page would turn around and like us also at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've started to look at different avenues. We use Google Analytics for some stuff, which actually gives you quite a bit of information about who's reaching your page via social media. Twitter seems to be the hot topic right now for us. The one thing that's most active. We do have quite a few people who reply to a lot of stuff on Facebook, but I find a lot of that winds up being alumni or people like my wife. So it's not so much the students. Where Twitter seems to be hot, all the students are on it and using it around here. So there's another piece of software out there, Hadoop, and it's got, I'm just reading on this, a friend of mine set it up over in the College of Business, where you can visualize sentiment data, so you can actually get in and visualize all the unstructured data in Twitter. So you can put in a term, whatever you wanted to, something, finals or whatever, and it'll visualize for you. It takes a little bit of crunching in the back end. They actually give you a virtual server you can run to do this, but it's very interesting in how it works and how you can kind of see the depth and breadth of your posting and where it went.
What was that called again? Can you spell it?
Hadoop, H-A-D-O-O-P.
OOP.
Yeah. Here,
It's funny that you say that students are using Twitter, because I don't know a lot of students here that use Twitter. They're in Tumblr and Facebook mostly.
Well, that's important to gauge, is what is being used. It reminds me to go and ask our student government members again, hey, if I put this, where would you be likely to see it? Or where would you be likely to pay attention to it? Because we're making assumptions all the time, and the population, believe it or not, they keep changing, and we don't. Those 18-year-olds get younger every year, don't they?
Don't remind me.
So how do you, that's a question that, well, we've talked a little bit about, I'm looking at the questions I'm supposed to make sure we get to, or at least try to get to, but it makes me wonder, how do we involve students, or how might we involve students more? There's already been a couple of really good ideas about having a campaign created by a student or an account managed by a student. There's always the oh no, what if they do something inappropriate moment that we hear from administrators if we let a student manage an account. But We do know we have the PR committee member who's in charge of posting to Facebook has a student worker who's often coming up with things like, it's National such and such month, and they'll come up with a good, clever post for that, or they'll be scanning other campus events and reposting things for us. So we know that they can handle that. But I like the idea of a campaign. You mentioned knowing where your students are. Do you just check in with them, the student workers in the library? Do you go to an advisory group? Do you have connections with student government?
Yeah, here we have a library student advisory group that spans a lot of different departments and types of students, so they've been extremely helpful for things like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I actually have a group here. We call them our library ambassadors, and they're actually volunteer students who work on, and they're a relatively new group, but they've been giving us a lot of great ideas for social media, and they're going to help us take a few things, other projects forward with social media. I'm interested in what kind of outreach you guys do with social media. For instance, we follow the hashtags, and a lot of them are specific to our university or like the next incoming class of 2018 or whatever it might be. We will actually, when we see people, a lot of times we see it right in the hashtags. The kids are posting, "Hey, I got my acceptance letter to CMU. So happy, can't wait. Fire up!" And one of our slogans around here is "Fire up Chips," and that's one of the hashtags that we follow. We'll reach back out to that student and say, "Congratulations, welcome. Can't wait to see you at the library when you get to campus. Come check us out." And we get a ton of traction from that. That gets favorited and retweeted like you wouldn't believe.
Wow.
That's great.
That is a great idea. Again, that proactive being out in the space is maybe as useful as posting our own information to them. It's a conversation, right? Social media is supposed to be a conversation, not a one-way messaging
Absolutely.
tool.
And that's one of the things that I've been trying to emphasize with our social media group is I don't want to be the guy on the corner with a bullhorn, because that doesn't get anybody excited and nobody wants to listen to that. We want to be interactive with them. At the same time, we have to accept that if we're out there warts and all. You're going to get trolls. You're going to get negative comments. It's about how we handle it. And some people were hesitant at first because they didn't want this to become like a support channel, but I said, why isn't it? Why wouldn't it be? If they're going to come to us with a problem or an issue, I don't care how it comes in. As long as it comes in, I'd rather know about it through social media than not know about it, because I can't address a problem I don't know about.
Right.
Jenny, you were talking about your student advisory board. Can you tell us more about that and I'd be interested in what things they have taught you that you wouldn't have already known, maybe?
Yeah, we've only had it for 2 years now, and we always have one person from SGA, the student government, one international student. We try to get one person from the arts, one person from the sciences, so all the different departmental. We try to have a range of ages, and they're largely nominated by faculty who think that they have some invested interest in the library, and we try to keep it down to just one student worker because student workers already know the library pretty well. But so far we've made some pretty big changes based on their feedback. We changed the hours of the library this spring because we were open until 7 p.m. on Saturdays, and we only opened at noon on Sundays, and the students were like, it would be so much better to close at 5 on Saturdays because no one's going to use the library then anyway, and open earlier on Sundays. The main thing that they wanted was, we do these other things all weekend, and we want to get in earlier than we can. We have a Southern Baptist history here, so I think for a long time we kept Sunday mornings off the table, but we're no longer Southern Baptist. So that was a big one, and then they gave a lot of really good feedback for we do the MISO survey every 2 years. It's a big survey for almost all of the campus, and there were several comments about quiet and noise, and with their help we developed quiet zones that we never had before. So those are two pretty big things that they had a direct influence on. So, and we've actually, when we put the new hours up, I made the poster, and it has all the faces of the students in that group, and it says, our new hours are this, thanks to the people in this committee. If you have more feedback, talk to these people, because of course they probably know them more than they know us. It's been an invaluable resource.
Wonderful. And how often do you meet?
Twice a semester, and we feed them dinner. Dinner time seems to be a really good meeting time.
Always food.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to slot it in between the student government meetings and the Greek houses and all that. Yeah, definitely in our campus it's the same. Their meetings are at dinner time.
Yeah.
Great. How do you judge the success of a social media campaign? We talked about, the Twitter retweets, and we talked about Facebook reposts and everything like that. Have you ever judged something to be less effective, maybe, or more effective, and refocused energies in one way or the other? Like our Flickr account is just kind of there. We put stuff there, and we use Flickr in part because that's what marketing and communications uses, and we know they'll go there to get pictures from us to post, and we can go to theirs and repost things. So again, it's our students seeing it as much, probably not.
I think the best assessment we've had in that kind of arena is just with Facebook, because Facebook tells you when something's performing well.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that images had more of an audience. I'd never heard that before today, so that's news to me, but it's definitely been consistent with the feedback we've gotten from Facebook, where someone posts an image of like the dogs on the front porch, and that like so many more people have responded to that and seen that. So we've been moving more in that direction just based on that feedback anyway. I didn't realize it was like a strategy, but that's probably the only thing that's really easy to assess. And I also think the other thing I think was really smart is moving into Instagram, because so much of marketing and admissions is in Instagram, and that's where they're really connecting with prospective students. And then the whole Throwback Thursday thing gives us a lot of opportunities, like for our archives and everything, to connect with people on campus, and that's been really fun too. Other than that, it's hard to really judge success. For me, anyway.
If you don't have a threshold that you're looking for, yeah. And
yeah.
We've done the Throwback Thursday, and our Twitter person has started doing the Where's That Wednesday, and she'll take a picture of something that's on campus and get people to chime in on where it is.
That's fun.
A couple of you at least mentioned that you use Pinterest, which we don't, and we've thought about for various reasons. What are you using Pinterest for, and how is it working for you?
Well, here the Clark Historical Library uses it a lot more than we do in the main library, and so they've been using it for their digital newspaper project, posting a lot of cool stuff about that, because, again, they're using giant images to do all the scanning that they're doing. So that has gotten kind of a niche market around the people who have a lot of interest in the newspapers. The main campus, I don't even know that we have a Pinterest anymore. We had started one. It just didn't go too far. So we just kind of dropped it. I think we refocused that energy more to Instagram.
Our person in collection services that works with leisure reading, she uses it as a way to post book covers for the new leisure books that we have in, new audiobooks. She has different boards for each of them. And then we've also started doing those kind of as a virtual accompaniment to big speakers that come in on campus. Because we have 7 people in outreach, we're pretty connected with all, not just the academic departments, but all the kind of periphery departments, the business, the institutes, I guess is what I would say. And so they bring in a lot of speakers, and so if someone important's coming or if there's a topic for the year, we'll build kind of a little mini collection in Pinterest just because it's fast and easy. And then sometimes we're linking to that from our other presences like Facebook.
When you say a mini collection, it's like a virtual book display to go along with your topic?
Yeah, like these are the things you can get in the library, and then we'll include the call number and link back to the catalog.
I've actually been playing around with Library Thing to do something similar to that, I guess. But I haven't been using the very social aspects of it. I mean, I've just been using it to kind of create lists and get pretty visuals out of it.
Yeah. Can you embed that stuff into anything, like into LibGuides or into a website or something?
You can. I'll send you a link because we embedded it into our webpage.
I would like to see that too.
Yeah.
Again, I'm using some of these tools just to make visuals to add to other social media platforms. It can look really nice. So maybe, do any of you have any other suggestions for that? Collage makers or Library Thing accounts, or there's so many now easy to use Photoshop-like tools to create things with? Are you doing your own graphics work? Do you have a graphic designer, or do you have a student worker who's good with graphics to help with that?
Just do our own.
I have a graphic designer. I cheat. She does graphic design and she does our videos too.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice.
I think our new, we just moved from Luna to Content DM for our digital collections, and I know that they're supposed to have some exportable, like, timelines and image displays. We haven't really gotten into the point where we're pulling that content in anywhere yet, but I think that that's in the horizon. So that'll help connect to that content too, because sometimes it kind of lives over here, even though it's online.
If I can find it, I saw recently, well, it was on the academic, what's it called? The Facebook page for academic outreach librarians. LM, what is it? LMAO, but it's for outreach, not for the other. And someone posted 50 TED Talks about design that you should see, I think it was.
Oh.
Which sounded really lovely, since a lot of us are doing our own graphics work, sort of learning as we go. Let me see if I can dig that up. And feel free, I've been popping in questions, but crosstalk is fine. If you have questions for one another, I'm going to start looking for that link so I can share it with you.
Well, I wanted to go back to kind of a combination of something that Eric said and then a question that you'd asked. Eric, I think you said you use TweetDeck to monitor hashtags and things like that. Does Hoot? Do you know anything about Hootsuite? Does it also monitor?
Does, yes.
Okay. So I was just going to say, our science librarian, she has a Facebook account and a Twitter account for the science library, but not a lot of extra time to use it during the year. She's also a copyright officer, a very busy job. So in the summer, her student workers set up the entire year's posting in Hootsuite, because apparently you can schedule Facebook posts using that. And so more of the things of like anniversaries or collections that go along with events that we know about in advance. But I thought that was a kind of a creative use of summer student workers, because obviously they need projects. And it keeps that account going.
Yep. Yeah, you can do the same thing in TweetDeck for Twitter.
Okay.
But Hootsuite, I think, will do it across multiple platforms.
I love that. I have a student who's wanting to do a supplemental library science practicum with me in the summer, and I'm like, well, there's not a lot going on in the summer, but trying to think of how I could utilize her. That would be great. There's the 50 TED Talks about design and creativity.
Thank you.
In all our free time, right? Are there any other questions that you have for each other, or you want to pose to the group as a whole?
Well, I guess I was just wondering if there was the next big thing. I mean, I feel like the students are in Tumblr, but it's harder to figure out how to make a library presence there. So is there anything beyond that, I guess? We have text messaging capabilities to ask reference questions, and you can text the call number of a book to yourself. So I feel like we have that kind of covered. But is there anything else you know about coming up?
The kids here seem to use Snapchat a lot, but nobody's been brave enough to try and venture into that one from the library's perspective.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with it myself, but if somebody else wants to, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure that. I mean, I'm actually really interested in general in the whole tagging of the catalog. I don't know how we would get students to do it, and I don't even know. I mean, it's not really. I don't know that it's social, or I don't know if it's a way necessarily to have outreach. I'm just sort of interested in it as a concept. I feel like, when we're doing instruction and, trying to get students to use these terms and these subjects that are so often difficult for them to actually think up and use, I feel like I wish we could have a more organized experiment or something to come up with ways to really get them involved in that way, like those sorts of crowdsourcing projects, I guess, I think would be, I'm interested in. I have no ideas, even at our campus, what would work, but just sort of it's something in the back of my mind. The other thing I've often thought about, I mean, this is something we did, the librarians were doing a bit of when I was at University of Maryland, is actually editing Wikipedia. And so Wikipedia has such a bad gets such a bad reputation. I've noticed, especially from faculty, the students, it's now like a normal thing. The students come in and they're like, we're not allowed to use Wikipedia. It's evil, it's bad, it's terrible, don't touch it. I mean, it's not evil and bad. I mean, you have to know how to use it. You have to understand it. You have to take it for what it is. It's an encyclopedia to me, like any other encyclopedia. And so, having people understand better how the articles actually get created, and if you have something like a history event or something like that that you could get students involved in actually editing and creating content, I wonder if that would be interesting and useful. I don't know.
We have a writing, at least one writing professor. We have a writing program which is separate from the English department to infuse writing across the curriculum, and it's really has a strong sequence in the first year. And some of the faculty do that. They have their students create a Wikipedia account to see, like, hey, even we can create a Wikipedia account. I should probably question the secret behind the Wikipedia articles because we just made one. So that is a part of the learning about evaluating sources and understanding the different information channels.
And we actually had at Maryland, once again, this was really more for the librarians, but we had a edit-a-thon, and we called in like the local Wikipedia chapter. I mean, they do have like formal chapters in at least big metropolitan areas. And the guy who was in charge of the chapter in our area, he was college age, and he was amazing. Like, he got it all. He was amazing. He understood about copyright. He gave a talk about how to verify your sources and how to figure out if something was relevant or not. So in that sense, it was like having a peer. It would have been if there had actually been college students there and not just librarians, but like having a peer talk to you about it. And I was really, I guess, impressed with the depth of his consideration. He wasn't a casual Wikipedia editor. I mean, he was pretty hardcore. So.
Back to the discussion a couple seconds ago about graphic design and whatnot. Does anyone use Pictochart?
I have once. Just
Okay.
played around with it.
Gotcha. I find it to be pretty handy when I want to make an infographic real quick and my graphic designer might be a little bit busy. It's pretty easy to use, and it's not too expensive. I want to say it was something like $45 a year, but you can create some pretty cool stuff with it.
Can you share with us one of your infographics?
Let me see if I can find the one from last year. I did. Yeah, here's preview.
I was also, I like the, Jenny, your idea about crowdsourcing projects. That's been something on my mind, is how to bring in the energy of the students, their expertise, like you were just talking about, so much expertise is out there, and how to harness that. And that would obviously be more appealing to the other students if one of their own was the creator of the project or the campaign or the promotional event. So be interested to hear about that. We did have a writing class using special collections materials, and they did a version of the public. I think a lot of public libraries and archives and local history libraries will post who's in this picture, and that was just extremely exciting to the students that they could contribute. Even though they weren't tagging in the catalog, they were contributing information about a photo. So they were giving it orally or in their class environment, and then the archivist was adding that to the record if they could help find information. So that was really neat. And then we have we do have alums who chime in if they find a picture of themselves on the basketball team in 1957 and it's misattributed. That's me on the basketball team. We connect with alums that way. Let me go back to your page, Eric.
Yeah, this is just a quick one I threw together at the end of 2013 on our library main website visitors, so that I could present it to senior leadership real quick. This probably took me half an hour. I just went into Google and got all the data, Google Analytics, to throw this together. But it was really simple to do, and this is the kind of thing that's a big hit, especially with a lot of the dean and the associate dean and those folks who just want quick hit data. But this is the kind of thing you can throw up on Facebook in a hurry too, if you want to create a quick one about library stats or something along those lines.
That's cool. You said PictoChart?
Yeah, it's here. I'll send you the link.
Oh, yeah, I definitely hadn't spelled that right.
Yeah.
Are any of you engaged in helping to promote 3D printing on campus or in the library? And how is that going? Yeah, you're on a science and engineering campus, right?
Yeah, that's actually that's something I'm really, really excited about. And so I literally, like, the first or second week I was on campus, one of our engineering faculty came in to introduce himself, and we just started talking. And he has a 3D printer in his office or in his tech space, and it's a pretty, it's not like it's not like the MakerBots that you see a lot of libraries using and so on and so forth. This was like a kit 3D printer, and it's huge, and you can see all its guts, and it's got a webcam on it and everything. So, I mentioned that we were interested in investigating 3D printers for the library, and we're actually in the process of writing a grant proposal through Penn State. What we'd like to do is get like maybe 4 or 5 different 3D printers, not your sort of standard ones that every library buys or something like that. He's interested in doing a sort of collaboration with me as, I guess, like the embedded librarian or whatever you want to call it in his engineering design class next semester. For his students, he's very interested in having them sort of evaluate the technology and use the technology and understand the sort of nuances between, like, this 3D printer is good for this, but this other one doesn't work well because the orientation is sideways, or, just sort of things that I think the average maybe consumer wouldn't necessarily think about, but that's important for design. And then hopefully at the end of the semester, the 3D printers are going to live in the library. And we'll have some sort of set of reviews and trainings and things like that for everybody else on campus to get exposed to the technology. So that's something I'm really excited about, and I'm excited about it just because, I guess, in a geeky way, right? Like, I didn't just want to buy a printer and stick it on a desk and sort of have people come in and make spoons with it. I wanted it to be more of an interesting teaching experience and learning experience. So that's what we're hoping to do. I think even if we don't get the grant, we'll find some other way to just get the printers. The ones we're looking at are not that expensive. And a couple of kits also. They make 3D printer kits that people can assemble themselves. So we're going to do a couple of those.
Cool.
I think that curricular tie-in is key. We had a 3D printing fair with a couple of a vendor and a local 3D printing store manager brought in some different machines to demo for us and campus in general. And the idea is, other than, oh, that's cool, how are we going to tie it into the curriculum? How are we going to get students to use it in a way that makes sense? So we're thinking one of our, not our mission, but our tagline is a great private institution dedicated to the public good. So we're looking at public good initiatives, but I think the curricular tie-in is essential. So that's I'm going to use that one to reach out. So I'd love to connect with you later and see how that went.
Okay.
Working with the faculty in a class, I think would be great.
We've had a lot of discussion about it. We would love to do it, especially the folks in the systems team. We're all about it. But there are already 4 on campus now. Our apparel merchandise and design department has one. I believe the art department has one. The College of Science and Technology has a couple. So we would like to enter that space. There's a lot of discussion about how do you staff it. I mean, we have 20,000 on-campus students, and we're a public library too, so we have a lot of folks from the community in here. How do you staff it? How do you limit or not limit who and when things can be printed. We actually just had a big in-service last week where folks from Michigan State came up and talked to us about how they're doing it with 3D printing in their shop, and they actually have quite the maker community in the East Lansing area, so they have a huge wealth resource there. We don't have. We're an hour north of them in a much smaller town. We don't have that maker space, mentality here in town. I don't know of any place offhand in town that you could even use a 3D printer if you're not tied to one of these places on campus. So we don't have that level of resource, accessible to us. And it's a question of staffing. It's a question of funding. They were talking to us about some of the pitfalls. They break down from time to time. They have people who print a 36-hour job, and that printer is tied up for a day and a half, and there's nothing you can do about it. But they do have an oversight into what gets printed, which I thought was brilliant on their part. So they make sure that this is legit, and because they do charge for it. So it's got to make sure that you're going to pay for it, you're going to come pick it up, and all that. And they've yet to have any problems with that, which is great. But again, when you've only got one or two of them and somebody's tying it up for 36 hours, it's kind of a downer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It isn't something we've really done. There's a few on campus, but not very high demand. One of the things that we're going to be experimenting with soon is Google Glass, the new version, because one of the people in our library was really excited about some things she might be able to do. So I'm not sure where that will go either. But we've traditionally been pretty early adopters of technology. Our campus itself isn't necessarily. So we're the place that people come to experiment with, like iPads and Kindles, and we bought a bunch so that people could do that and check them out for short periods of time and things like that. I don't know. 3D printing, how some things just don't catch on some places?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they will at some point, and hopefully we'll be ready for it. But
we're having a big push from the top, from the administration and from the library dean, who are looking around in our community and our population. The students that are coming to us have used 3D printers in their high schools or public library. Wow. So they expect it. And if they're not in those set programs, we also have several across campus, but you have to be in that program. So we want to open it up. And there's the fine line to walk between guiding people to uses that we think that would be good and just letting them go and do what they can do, and not saying, oh, I'm sorry, you can't print that because it's going to take 36 hours, but saying if that's a useful project for you, then we want to let you use it. So it's a challenge. Well, any other last comments or questions for one another before we wrap up here?
I have a kind of a tangential question. Do you know if this little group, this committee, whatever it is doing anything specifically at ACRL?
We are not. Our project for this year was to do these online discussions, and then we're working on some. There are two subcommittees. I'm on the discussion one, and I actually haven't heard lately from the other, which is sort of pulling together some documentation and resources for people.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything coming up, because it's,
I'll double check and let you know if I've missed that, because I've been in my little subcommittee world for a while, but I will let you know.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I appreciate all of you, your attendance and participation. Feel free to spread the word. We're hoping to have a series of discussions sort of on an ongoing basis. The next set of discussions, and what we do is 4 times within any given week, so that people can come regardless of their schedule, the same topic at each discussion. And April's discussion will be on how to assess, which we did talk about a little bit, but I think that is an issue and a challenge for all of us. So how to assess our outreach efforts. And if you could please check your email inboxes in a few minutes, I'm going to be sending out a feedback survey link. So if you could fill that out, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.